My fiancé whispered, "I still love my ex." 2 weeks before our 180-guest wedding, I said, "Then go with him." Quietly canceled everything, sold the house, and requested a transfer out of state. She thought it was an ultimatum bluff, until she saw. Guys, I need to get this off my chest because I'm still processing what I did yesterday, and honestly, I feel like I'm living in an alternate reality. I'm 33M, regional sales manager for an industrial equipment company here in Dallas. Been with my fiancé Kennedy, 30F, interior designer, for 2.5 years, engaged for 18 months. Wedding is literally supposed to be this Saturday, not next month, not next year, 8 days from now. Venue booked, 180 guests confirmed, catering finalized, honeymoon flights to Cabo already paid for. Thursday night, we're doing final wedding prep stuff. Going over the timeline with our wedding planner Riley, confirming details, feeling excited. Normal pre-wedding stress, but nothing crazy. Kennedy seemed a little quiet, but I figured she was just overwhelmed with all the last-minute details. Then around 11 p.m., after Riley left, Kennedy starts crying. Not happy tears, like ugly sobbing in our kitchen. I'm thinking maybe her mom said something bitchy about the centerpieces or whatever, so I ask what's wrong. She looks at me and says, "Blake texted me." Blake, her college boyfriend from 6 years ago, the one she dated for 3 years and thought she was going to marry, before he moved to Chicago for work, and they broke up. The one she's mentioned maybe 5 times total in our entire relationship because it was too painful to talk about. I'm like, okay, weird timing, but whatever. People reach out sometimes. Then she hits me with, he's divorced now. His marriage ended 6 months ago and he's moving back to Dallas. Still processing, still giving her the benefit of the doubt. Okay, and? Then she completely destroys my world. Mason, I can't marry you on Saturday. I'm still in love with him. Guys, 2 weeks before our wedding. After 18 months of engagement. After I put a $12,000 ring on her finger, and we've been living together for 2 years, and I bought this house with her dream kitchen that she spent 8 months designing. I just stared at her. Couldn't even speak for probably 2 full minutes. She's still crying, saying she's so sorry, and she didn't know these feelings were still there. And she thought she was over him. But when he reached out, she realized she never was. When I finally found my voice, I asked the only question that mattered. "Are you calling off the wedding?" She says, and I'll never forget this. "I don't know. I need time to figure out what I want. Can we postpone?" Time to figure out what she wants, 8 days before our wedding, after 2.5 years together. I told her she had 24 hours to decide. Either she wanted to marry me on Saturday and Blake could fuck right off, or she didn't and I'd handle the rest. No postponing, no figuring things out, no keeping me on the back burner while she explored her feelings. She got upset that I was giving her an ultimatum and said she needed more time. I told her that was her answer and went to the guest room. Yesterday morning, she was still thinking about it. So I started making calls. Called Riley first. Wedding is canceled. We'll handle vendor payments and guest notifications. Called the venue, the caterer, the photographer, the band. Canceled everything. Yes, we're eating most of the deposits, but whatever. Called my boss. I'm requesting immediate transfer to our Denver office. He's known me for 8 years, knows I don't make impulsive decisions. Approved it on the spot. Called our realtor. House goes on the market Monday. Called my parents. Explained the situation. They're driving down this weekend to help me pack. Kennedy came home around lunch to find me loading boxes into my truck. She completely lost it, screaming about how I'm overreacting and destroying everything and not giving her space to process. I told her I was giving her exactly what she asked for, time to figure out what she wants, just not with me as an option anymore. She kept saying she never said she didn't love me, and we could work through this, and I was throwing away 2.5 years over one moment of confusion. Here's the thing though, this wasn't confusion. This was clarity. She looked me in the eye and told me she's still in love with another man. 2 weeks before our wedding. That's not a moment of panic, that's the truth finally coming out. I'm not hanging around to be her backup plan while she decides between me and her great lost love. I'm not postponing our wedding so she can explore her feelings. And I'm sure as hell not starting a marriage with someone who needed her ex to come back to realize she might not want me. So yeah, I went nuclear. Wedding canceled, house listed, transfer approved, already have a flight to Denver on Tuesday to apartment hunt. Garrett, my buddy from work, said I'm handling this like a boss. And he's proud of me for not trying to fight for someone who clearly doesn't want to be fought for. The crazy part? I feel relief. Like obviously I'm hurt and angry and feeling like the last 18 months were a lie. But underneath all that, I feel like I dodged a massive bullet. If Blake hadn't reached out, would she have married me anyway and had this crisis 5 years from now with kids involved? Kennedy's been texting nonstop since yesterday, saying she made a terrible mistake and wants to talk through this like adults. But what's to talk about? She's in love with someone else. That's pretty definitive. I keep thinking about what my dad went through when my mom's dad left when I was 16. Just up and decided he needed to find himself after 20 years of marriage. Destroyed our family. I swore I'd never put up with that kind of wishy-washy bullshit, and I meant it. So Reddit, am I overreacting? Should I have given her more time to process? Or did I handle this exactly right? Part of me feels bad for nuking everything so quickly, but another part of me thinks that when someone tells you they're in love with someone else 2 weeks before your wedding, swift action is the only rational response. Update 1. Well, Reddit, it's been a week since I nuked my entire life, and I figured you guys deserved an update since so many of you followed my story. First off, I'm writing this from Denver. Got here Tuesday night, found a sick apartment in Lodo yesterday, signed the lease today. Mountain views, walking distance to work, completely different world from Dallas suburbia. My stuff gets here Monday. The house in Dallas, sold. 3 showings, 2 offers, accepted 1 yesterday. Apparently Kennedy's interior design work made it highly desirable, which is ironic as hell. Closing in 3 weeks. But let's talk about Kennedy, because that's where things got really interesting. Saturday would have been our wedding day. I spent it hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park, getting altitude sickness, and feeling more at peace than I have in months. Kennedy spent it blowing up my phone with increasingly desperate messages. Turns out, Blake's grand romantic gesture lasted exactly 72 hours. According to Garrett, who's been feeding me intel, Blake took Kennedy out Tuesday night, 2 days after our canceled wedding. Fancy dinner at Ficini, the works. Wednesday they spent the day together, Kennedy posting all over Instagram like she'd found her soulmate. Thursday morning, Blake ghosts her completely. Doesn't return calls, doesn't respond to texts. Kennedy drives to his hotel, because of course he was staying in a hotel, not actually moving back to Dallas, and the front desk tells her he checked out that morning. Come to find out, Blake wasn't actually divorced. He was separated, trying to reconcile with his wife, and apparently used Kennedy as some kind of test to see if he still had it. When he confirmed he could blow up an engagement with a few text messages, he went back to Chicago to work on his marriage. Kennedy found this out Friday when Blake's wife called her directly and told her to stop contacting my husband. Apparently Kennedy wasn't the first engaged woman Blake had pulled this shit with. So by Saturday, our would-be wedding day, Kennedy was completely alone. No Blake, no Mason, no wedding, and starting to realize that our mutual friends were mostly taking my side. The messages started Saturday night. Mason, I made the biggest mistake of my life. Blake was using me. I never stopped loving you. Please call me. We can fix this. The wedding can be rescheduled. I'm so sorry. I was scared of commitment and sabotaged the best thing in my life. Your parents won't even talk to me. Please tell them I'm not a bad person. And my personal favorite, you can't just throw away 2.5 years because I had one moment of weakness. One moment of weakness. That's what she's calling it. Here's what really gets me. She's not upset that she hurt me. She's upset that I actually followed through on my boundaries. She genuinely thought I'd stick around and fight for her while she figured things out. My mom called yesterday and said Kennedy showed up at their house crying, begging them to talk sense into me. Mom told her that I learned from watching my dad that you don't wait around for people who can't decide if they want you. The best part though, Kennedy's been asking our friends if I'm seriously moving to Denver or if this is just a dramatic gesture to get her attention. She cannot comprehend that I actually meant what I said. My new colleagues here are amazing, by the way. Already invited me to a company ski trip next month. The regional manager I'm working under said Dallas has been trying to get me to transfer for 2 years. So this worked out perfectly for everyone. I did have one moment of doubt though. Wednesday night, looking at all our photos on my phone before deleting them, I started wondering if I was too harsh, if maybe I should have given her a chance to explain. Then I remembered her exact words. I'm still in love with him. Not, I have confusing feelings, or, I need closure. She was in love with another man. 2 weeks before marrying me. And you know what? If Blake had been genuine, if he'd actually wanted to build a life with her, she would have chosen him. I'm not anyone's second choice, especially not someone who waited until 14 days before the wedding to figure out who she really wanted. Garrett sent me a photo yesterday. Kennedy at Target, looking like she hasn't slept in days, buying a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bottle of wine. He said half our friend group feels bad for her. The other half thinks she got what she deserved. I don't wish her misery. I genuinely hope she learns from this and finds happiness eventually. But I'm not sticking around to be her therapy session while she processes her commitment issues. Denver is incredible, guys. The air is thin but clean. The mountains are unreal. And I haven't thought about wedding planning or interior design, or Blake's manipulative bullshit in 48 hours. Update 2. Hey Reddit, 6 weeks post-nuclear option, and I've got some updates that will definitely satisfy your justice boners. This story turned out to be stranger than I ever imagined. Everything I thought I knew was just the tip of the iceberg. Let me tell you the full version so you understand what really happened. First, let me paint the picture of my life now. I'm writing this from my deck in Lodo, looking at the mountains with a beer in hand after a day of snowshoeing. Got promoted to district sales manager last week with a 40% raise. Bought a used Jeep Wrangler for weekend adventures. Life is objectively better in every measurable way. Now for the Kennedy-Blake drama update, courtesy of my intel network back in Dallas, mainly Garrett and a few mutual friends who've been keeping me informed. So last update, Blake had ghosted Kennedy after 3 days. Well, the full story is even worse than I thought. Blake never left his wife. The divorce was actually just a trial separation that started in January. When he reached out to Kennedy in October, he was already in marriage counseling trying to work things out. Apparently, his therapist told him and his wife to explore what you think you're missing before deciding whether to divorce. So Blake decided to look up all his exes to see if the grass was actually greener. Kennedy wasn't even the only one. Garrett found out through a friend of a friend that Blake contacted at least 3 other ex-girlfriends around the same time. 2 of them were smart enough to tell him to fuck off. Kennedy was the only one who took the bait. Here's the timeline as I've managed to piece it together. Blake first reached out to Kennedy on a Wednesday. The very next Thursday, she confessed everything to me. By Friday, I had already blown up the entire relationship. The following Tuesday, Blake took her out, only to ghost her by that same week's Friday. And by Sunday, he was already on a flight back to Chicago to work on his marriage. 1 week. He destroyed my engagement, Kennedy's entire social standing, and our friend group for a 1-week ego trip to prove to his wife that he could still get women. But wait, it gets better. Kennedy tried to expose him on social media. Posted a long Instagram story about how he manipulated her into ruining the best relationship of her life. Blake's wife saw it and called Kennedy directly, not to yell at her, but to thank her. Turns out Blake had been pulling this shit throughout their entire marriage. The wife had suspected he was reaching out to exes but couldn't prove it. Kennedy's public meltdown gave her exactly the evidence she needed for her divorce lawyer. So Blake lost his wife anyway, and now has to pay alimony and deal with Kennedy's very public documentation of his manipulation tactics. His reputation in Dallas social circles is completely destroyed. Kennedy's been trying to rebuild her image by painting herself as a victim of manipulation. But it's not really working. Most people are like, yeah, Blake's a piece of shit, but you still chose him over Mason 2 weeks before your wedding. The funniest part? Kennedy's been telling people that I was too extreme in my response and that any normal person would have tried to work things out. Meanwhile, I'm getting messages from guys saying they wish they'd had my backbone in similar situations. Her interior design business is struggling too. Turns out, a lot of her clients were referrals from our mutual friends, and well, awkward. Plus, word travels fast in Dallas about what happened. And people don't really want someone who can't commit to her own wedding planning their major renovations. I, on the other hand, am crushing it. Closed 3 major deals last month. My boss is talking about fast-tracking me for regional VP, and I've been hiking every weekend. Did I mention the 40% raise? Oh, and here's the kicker. My old company in Dallas has been trying to get me to come back. They offered me Kennedy's old position, not literally her position, but the same level role she'd been angling for, plus a signing bonus. I told them thanks, but no thanks. Denver is home now. Kennedy found out about the offer through the office grapevine and texted me. See, they want you back. Dallas wants you back. I want you back. You belong here. I didn't respond, but if I had, I would have told her that belonging somewhere isn't about people wanting you back after you've already left. It's about people appreciating you enough that you never want to leave in the first place. She definitely didn't appreciate me when she had me. Final update. Hey Reddit, it's been 6 months since I went nuclear on my life, and I wanted to give you guys a final update since so many of you have been following this saga. Short version, life is incredible, and I have 0 regrets. Long version, remember how I said life was objectively better? That was just the beginning. I'm now regional VP for Colorado-Wyoming territory, making almost double what I was in Dallas. Bought a house in Golden with mountain views that would make your jaw drop. Still have the Jeep, added a mountain bike and ski equipment. My health is better, my bank account is better, my entire outlook on life is better. But here's what I really want to talk about. The mindset shift that came from taking decisive action when my boundaries were crossed. 6 months ago, I was a guy who thought compromise and working things out were always the mature response. I thought walking away made you a quitter. I thought fighting for your relationship, no matter what good men do. Now I realize that was bullshit. Sometimes the most mature thing you can do is recognize when someone has shown you who they are and believe them the first time. Kennedy showed me that when push came to shove, when she had to choose between security, me, and excitement, Blake, she chose excitement. That's not love, that's convenience with a backup plan. Some updates on her situation, since people always ask. She moved back in with her parents. Her interior design business basically collapsed. Last I heard through the grapevine, she was working at a furniture store and taking antidepressants. Look, I don't take pleasure in her struggles, but I also don't feel guilty about them. She made her choice, and choices have consequences. I made mine too, and I'm living with those consequences very happily. Blake's wife divorced him and got half his shit. He's apparently trying to start over in Denver, of all places. But word travels fast in business circles, and his reputation preceded him. Haven't run into him, hope I never do. The biggest lesson I've learned is this. When someone can't decide if they want you, make the decision for them by removing yourself as an option. It's not mean, it's not immature, it's self-respect. I've been dating someone for about 2 months now. Nova, she's a veterinarian here in Golden. Met her at a trail cleanup volunteer event. She's nothing like Kennedy, direct, decisive, knows what she wants. When I told her my story, her response was, "Good for you. I'd have done the same thing." That's the difference between a woman who respects herself and one who doesn't. Nova would never put someone in Kennedy's position because she values her own word too much to break it. And she'd never accept being someone's backup plan because she values herself too much for that. We're not rushing anything, but it's nice to date someone who shows up consistently instead of keeping you guessing about their feelings. Career-wise, my old company in Dallas is still trying to poach me back. They've offered me a VP position, $100K signing bonus, the works. I keep telling them no, and they keep increasing the offer. It's flattering but pointless. I'm never moving back to Texas. Colorado is home now. I've got friends who invite me skiing, hiking buddies who push me to try new trails, colleagues who respect my work, and a life that I built from scratch based on my values instead of someone else's indecision. My parents visited last month and said they're proud of how I handled everything, my dad especially. He said he wished he'd had my backbone when he was dealing with his own commitment-phobic situation. The house in Dallas finally sold. Took forever because Kennedy's emotional attachment made showings weird, and I used my equity to buy my place here outright. No mortgage, no debt, Complete financial freedom at 33. Sometimes people ask if I miss Kennedy or if I ever wonder what if. Honestly, no. You can't miss someone who was never really there. The Kennedy I thought I loved was the version of her that existed when she felt safe and secure with me as her backup plan. The real Kennedy was the one who could look me in the eye 2 weeks before our wedding and tell me she loved someone else. I don't wonder what if, because I know exactly what would have happened. We would have postponed the wedding. She would have strung me along while figuring things out. And eventually, I would have ended up right here anyway, just with more wasted time and less self-respect. The best part about going nuclear isn't the dramatic satisfaction, though that was nice. It's the knowledge that when someone crosses your boundaries, you have the backbone to enforce them immediately. It changes how you move through the world. People treat you differently when they know you won't accept disrespect. They value you more when they know you're not desperate to keep them around. They respect your yes when they know your no actually means no. So to anyone dealing with a partner who can't decide if they want you, stop trying to convince them. Stop providing evidence of your worth. Stop negotiating for basic respect. Just make the decision for them by choosing yourself instead. It's the most empowering thing you can do, and I promise you'll thank yourself later. Thanks to everyone who followed this journey and offered support along the way. Reddit helped me process some really difficult emotions and stay focused on what actually mattered. My self-respect. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a trail run planned and a life to continue building.